Hey everyone, I'm Brandon Vinyard. I've been selling and listing bank foreclosures for over 18 years, and the last 3 properties I've sold that have been under $100,000 have had over 40 offers combined. That's 40 offers in 3 properties. That's a lot. And today, I'm going to go over the key points of the as-is contract that everyone needs to know, needs to pay attention to, and where I see the most mistakes being made. So let's jump right into it. I've got a contract already filled out, highlighted, that we're going to go over, and we're going to start in the very beginning with the seller name. Now, first rule, and the first thing you need to do is make sure that there's not a policy set instructions on what to use for a seller name. Just an example, Fannie Mae, you can only use the word Fannie Mae on the contract. They will not sign the contract package without having the seller name as Fannie Mae. Very specific. Some sellers are like that. Now, there's not a lot of them are like that, but some of them are. Next, I always say check the county records. If it's not the previous seller's name, like Sally Johnson, please don't use that. Then revert to owner of record, okay? If it is the new updated bank entity name, just copy and paste and use that on your contract. Now, the same thing for your tax ID and legal description, just copy and paste this stuff. Each item, but honestly, out of 40 contracts, I've had several that had these reversed. I've had one that had the tax ID used as the legal description. So I've seen a couple issues, and just remember, copy and paste these items from your tax records. You won't get them wrong. Okay, this one's a big one. Your EMD. No matter what your price, if it's a cash transaction, a cash purchase, whatever your purchase price is, you always want to put down 10% EMD, earnest money. So if it's a $100,000 purchase, you want to put down $10,000 EMD. There's a couple reasons why. Number one, there's a lot of sellers, like for instance Fannie Mae, that mandates that you put down 10%. You'll never be asked for more than 10%. Unless it's just a quirky asset manager. I used to have one years ago, honestly, for SunTrust, and we were doing $1 million foreclosures over in Destin. And this particular asset manager, she would demand humongous, EMDs for the cash purchases, especially if they were getting a huge discount. So there's cases, but for the most part, 10% is enough. That's all you need to ever do. But problem is, I see too many $500 and $1,000 because that's what agents are used to doing for financing in typical transactions in our area. So $500 and $1,000. That's generally a counter item. So you don't want the offer to be countered. And one of the ways is offering a really weak EMD. Not to mention, you're going to get a lot more offers accepted offering 10% EMD on cash offers than you're not. I'm telling you. So just make a rule. Whether you're an agent to your buyers, just, if it's cash, put 10% down. And like I said, revert to Fannie Mae. If Fannie Mae, can mandate it, and they're not the only one. Reverse mortgage does it. Freddie Mac does it. So most of your government entity sellers like those require 10%. Now, this is another one, acceptance period. Please don't ever use anything under 5 days. There's just no reason. I mean, if you want to put something, at least go 5 to 7 days or longer, or leave it blank. It doesn't hurt to leave it blank. It's not going to hurt the buyer. There's no risk at all of anything happening leaving it blank. But putting 24 or 48 hours, which most contracts around here have, it just drives me nuts, because you should know there's no way, period, possible, that that you can expect a response within 24 hours, and most of the ones I get are. That's one reason why I made a note of this, because I'm blown away by the short response times. It just doesn't work that way. For instance, I've never had a corporate seller ever care about an acceptance period on the offer. Never. They don't even look at it. So remember, it's not a big deal. It's easier to leave it blank. Closing date on a cash transaction. The best advice I can give you here is, number one, a short, tiny period isn't going to matter. You're hardly ever going to lose a deal over a closing date. unless you go over 30 days on cash. Just keep it with under 30 days. If the seller doesn't like it, they'll counter it. But it just doesn't cost a buyer the deal. If it's me, generally I'm going to put 21 days. Because here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want to put a short period and them accept it. And I have some sellers that if you put 7 days, they will accept that contract. And guess what? It's never going to close in 7 days, so we have to get an extension. So the goal is not to have to get extensions. So keep that in mind also. But just keep it under 30 days and you'll be fine. This one, hopefully everyone already knows, but contracts cannot be assigned for foreclosure. So just make sure if you have this, box, only check for, may not assign, because anything else will be countered. This will be in every seller corporate addendum that the contract's not assignable unless it has major corporate approval. I've never had one in my career, never assigned. So don't even check anything but may not assign. Okay, closing costs. Now this is a big one. And my first rule to anyone is make sure you know the seller's policy or procedures on what they're going to pay. We assume, because we're used to it in Florida, the seller paying doc stamps and owner's policy if you utilize their services. That's what we're used to. But now things have changed, and there's a lot of corporate sellers that are exempt that will not pay doc stamps, okay? So that's a big charge. If you don't know, that's 70 cents per $100 of the purchase price. So if it's a $100,000 purchase, that's $700 in just, doc stamps. Remember, Florida doesn't have state income tax, so state makes their money from taxing property sales. So every property sale has a doc stamps on it. And it's customary, the corporate sellers pay this. Now, majority of my clients do. They do pay doc stamps and owner's policy if you utilize their title company. So when I say, well, if you're buying a foreclosure and paying cash and you use their company for closing, you're not really going to pay any closing costs. You're going to have little small fees charged by the company for little stuff, but you're not paying anything bulk, nothing big, nothing at all. And that's one nice thing about buying a foreclosure. Down here is just where it gets verified, because you got to remember, the listing agent's got to type this in or submit this offer some way. We just don't email direct contracts into sellers anymore. We have to decipher what's on the contract. So just make sure you pick which one, if you're an agent your buyer wants. Do they want to pay for it and choose? Or, do you want to use a seller's company? When the property gets more expensive is when it can really save you money. Some of the cheaper ones, but I have a lot of clients, and a lot of agents have a lot of clients that only want to use their attorney or their, favorite title company to handle it. So just make sure you choose the right one for your buyer. Because if you don't, it could cost the buyer money, because they got to pay for it. Okay, I'm only mentioning the home warranty because I see this more often than I think I should probably. But a corporate seller will never pay for a home warranty on a cash transaction. Never. All right. Also, this isn't a big deal, but just on our contract, a lot of people get confused. Corporate sellers, they're only going to pay up to closing date, and everything's prorated. So if it's taxes, HOA stuff, that's how it's going to work. They cover up to the day they own it, then they prorate. So if it's taxes or something paid in the rear, you will get a credit, on the HUD. Okay, this is the next big one, and it's your inspection period. First rule I can tell you is never go over 10 days. Just don't ever ask over 10 days. In our contract here in Florida, this is blank, and it defaults to 15 days. A majority of the contracts I receive, a vast majority, this is blank. It's a guaranteed counter item. Okay, no corporate seller is going to go 15 days. Most of them are going to go 10, but Fannie Mae, for example, does allow for 10. So my advice is never ask for more than 10. If you want to increase your chances of getting the property, cut these days down. If you can do any homework beforehand, do any inspections, any checking out the property, anything you can do before you put the offer in and can cut these days down, the better your chances. And a lot of corporate sellers are going to negotiate a lot more on price, especially if you have zero contingencies on inspections. And that, to me, is, it's only okay if you know what you're doing or you've already had an opportunity to have the property inspected. And nowadays, a lot of people are able to do that. but never over more than 10 days. You will lose a lot of deals. Promise you. Okay, so this is really the last two things, but I just want to address, because I do see this a lot when it comes to addendums and stuff. If it doesn't pertain to the deal and it's not mandatory by state, local, or federal laws, don't include it. I mean, your broker or office manager is going to understand it's a foreclosure, and a lot of times they don't want to sign the stuff. It's not benefiting your client if a corporate seller doesn't want to sign your office, forms. So my advice is don't send them. A good example is I get all the time an HOA form that says no HOA, they want the seller to sign. They don't want to. If it's not mandatory, it's not needed, don't send it. The other thing, this is another big one that really screws people up a lot, the additional terms. I get some crazy stuff put on here, and I'm telling you, it's very, very simple. The more verbiage you add, the better your chances of getting your offer countered or rejected. The best thing that's going to happen is it's going to be countered. But once again, you're doing the one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to create counter terms in the contract. You want to keep those to a minimum. So the more stuff you put in this section, the additional term section, the better chances your offer is going to get, kicked out or, rejected or countered. So don't do it. Keep the contract simple. Anyway, that's it. I hope this helped real quick. Show you a couple of the, key points. I can promise if you do most of these, whether you're a buyer, or you're the agent, you're going to get more offers accepted, and you're just going to have, more luck in the long run. That's a promise. All right. If you like the video, hey, please hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. I got a lot more really good, especially REO foreclosure content coming out soon. We're going to be digging deep, and I'm going to be teaching, showing you a lot of different stuff. And hopefully this will help. Anyway, appreciate it, and have a great day.